Hello everyone, this video is about politics, so watch it if you're into that. I have often recorded just long monologues of what I think about things, like especially, 3 years since my accident ends up being way more popular than my other videos, even though I spend so much time putting together all this beautiful footage for you guys. Well, I really do it for myself, and I love it when other people get something out of it too, but I kind of just do it in a way that if I was the only person to watch it, I'd be happy with it. So yeah, I talked about what happened, what my thoughts were about the pandemic when that happened at the time. And it's good to look back on later, and yeah, there's a few people which, say to you, oh, I saw that and I agree with you, or whatever. Or maybe there's something I didn't think of. So it's always good to have that connection. And with all the devastation that's going on in the world at the moment, am I going to save any of the people who are getting slaughtered in Palestine with this video? Probably not, but I think if I was them, I would like to know that someone was at least thinking about it, what's going on there, even if we couldn't really do anything. At the moment, I've got a problem with my, eye and my face. I had a bit of an accident yesterday. It was not actually flying, but it was to do with flying, and it's a dangerous sport. But at least when we do flying, it's all personal risk, and I want to talk about a lot of the way I think about politics and how it interacts with myself personally, like the decisions I make in my life, and to do with flying, how it affects me, how it affects paragliding, how it affects travel, how it affects visiting places. I'm probably not going to have time to talk about half the things I'm talking about, but at least with flying, it's a personal risk, and we're not really hurting other people by taking these risks. But yeah, basically we've got a world ruled by old men who are just sociopaths, and I don't know what point it has to get to until we do something about it. Like, there's a common thing, don't bring politics into it, that kind of, yeah, if you ever bring politics into anything, you isolate parts of your audience. Like, if you take sides, then people don't want to, some people are going to be with you and some are going to be against you. And that's why politicians don't have any policies, because they don't want to alienate anyone. And yeah, there's a lot of things going on in the world, but I actually find it super interesting. And just like when I'm paragliding, a lot of what got me into the sport of paragliding was being able to see the world, and it's so beautiful. And also, as I started doing more of it, it became about understanding the world as well. And I think for me, that's an interesting part of geopolitics. Like, if you watching a TV series, it's interesting seeing what's going on, the different character developments, the different relationships, the alliances, the little battles, all that kind of thing is interesting, and it's got nothing to do with us and our lives. I mean, unless you can make an analogy to your own life out of some of the situations, it's not going to make a difference or anything like that. But it is, people watch it, and I think that geopolitics is a more real world version of that. I think that fiction is amazing. There's some great books out there. Read mine, it's only partly fiction. But it yeah, my favorite type of fiction is the stuff that could be real, or that, for example, there's a book about when Sparta defended against the Persians, and in 300 BC, and it was fiction. They made up the story, but they were also a person that knew a lot about the history, and they tried to make it as realistic as possible, just to tell a story of what it was like back in the day. So, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, it's a crazy world, and I would like to keep living here as long as I can. And one of the parts of traveling the world, it's beautiful seeing the world from above. And thinking about when I was in India, part of it was when you get above a certain level, there's less rubbish where you go where less people are. But the interactions that we have with the locals are also a big part of traveling. And yeah, there's a lot of stories in the world. And yeah, that's I would really like to go to some places that are not very advisable places to go at the moment, and it's a shame that some of our history is just being destroyed. But I think for now, I'm probably going to put up pictures instead of holding this phone here, and just keep blabbering on for a bit. So these are pictures from Thessaloniki in my recent road trip in Greece. I'm only putting them up because I'm lazy and I just want to talk. It's not related to what I'm talking about. It's just the most recent place I've been. I'm in there now actually. So yeah, what I wanted to talk about, years ago, 2014, I visited a guy and he said to me, "You get the government you deserve." And yeah, uh, he kind of has a point. Like, if we just don't get involved in politics, if we just sit back and let the old people who've made up their minds about these things that have no concept of reality except for watching the news, like the traditional media these days, would you really want them to decide what happens in the world? What's my next point? So, regulatory capture, like obviously the US is incredibly corrupt, but openly corrupt, like in terms of how much money they spend on elections, how many political donations there are, and all that. But I just want to bring it back to where I used to work in Brisbane out of uni for 8 years. It's a very small company. We were doing maintenance of lighthouses. It's not really political, but I remember a boss there, and he was a genuine, seemed like a nice guy. Like, I'm not really talking about him specifically, but when they were talking about there being extra rules and government regulation, and is this really necessary, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying it isn't, but in this case, he said, well, it's actually good for us because it helps keep out the smaller guys, the smaller companies who haven't gone through all this bloody blah. And there seems to be like a culture thing behind that as well, where it's not an open market, it's not a free market, it's regulatory capture. So it's talking about mates rates and it's who you know. And that's something that I heard all the time, like in my, the time I was a university student and all that kind of thing, about getting jobs and all this kind of thing. There's the fair go thing. I suppose that used to be an idea as well, and that's not really like the mates rates and it's who you know. But maybe, yeah, it changes over time. So, talking about changing over time, what are we going to do? Are we going to wait for all the old people who are running the world to die and wait for the new generation to take over and hope that they have some different ideas in their heads? Yeah, it's pretty dark, I reckon. Anyway, I find it super interesting. Like I said before, it's like watching a situation comedy or drama, maybe more apt description than comedy. Although it is funny, like it's hard for comedians because how do they be more ridiculous than real life? Watched a video about drone technology developing in Russia and Ukraine, and it was by a Russian who was working on drones, but he was saying both them and Ukraine have come a long way in the last few years, getting really good at killing each other. And this is where the smart minds are going now, not just finance, I guess. And he was saying that the Russian Ukrainian technology has come a long way, but the US stuff is crap, and all they're doing is chasing camels or something like that, basically fighting poor, defenseless people in the poorest places of the world, even though they have pulled out from Yemen recently, like the US Navy defeated by Yemen. that blew my mind, and I posted it on my Facebook. I got about 3 likes for that one. So yeah, the Middle East is basically Israel versus everyone else, but there's a lot of countries which are friendly to Israel, and they're basically the ones that are paid off and bought off, where it's trading oil for military power and hoping that you can keep the population under control. And yeah, they're really nice places, and I've been there and I've enjoyed my time there, but you better not say the wrong things to the wrong people or get on the wrong sides of certain things. Like, yeah, anyway, that's how it goes. But these other countries that are on the outside, and because they've chosen to be independent, like Yemen, Iran, are they really the terrorists? That they have realized that to survive at all, really, like, you need nuclear weapons, but yeah, to really survive, you can't negotiate. Like, the negotiations were going to happen 3 days after they were attacked. And yeah, they've known this for a very long time, and they've done something about it despite being under sanctions. So we'll see what happens next. It's interesting times, but yeah, it's really sad to just see the West, which is supposed to be about democracy and human rights, is just a complete fake. Like, yeah, at least Trump is more honest. And that was my other theory. So if Trump is basically carrying on the same policies of previous US presidents, there's no real change to the actual policy if you look at it, but the way he talks about it is completely different, and it's a lot more honest, and it's making people around the world. I mean, he's done some other things which maybe are a little bit different in terms of policy, like the trade wars, but it's making people around the world think to themselves, do we really want to do everything the US says and not have our own independent foreign policy? Maybe that would be a good idea. So I think that is a good way. And my theory is that if we say dealing with climate change, we need to scale back, we need to transition as fast as we can, we need to do it as orderly as we can, and we need to adapt to the new situation. But the alternative thing, which I've thought about once or twice, I'm not sure if I'm really serious about it, but let's just explore it as a thought experiment. So if we were instead to transition in a gradual and controlled way, we just fell over in a heap and everything suddenly came to a standstill, like having a big housing price crash or something like that. Is that a better way to deal with the problem? Not for humans, like, it'd be really disruptive, there'd be a lot of problems, but would it be better for the planet? Would the planet recover? Would the rest of the world, like the non-human part of it, do better if it all fell in a heap suddenly rather than a controlled, organized transition? So that's just a thought experiment. And yeah, we don't really have that many worlds to do experiments on to gather data. So we have to try to choose the best thing first time. But, well, eventually, hopefully. But talking about US policies, is that an analogous to that? Like, is that an analogy? Is it like getting Trump as the president would be having the system suddenly fall on itself? Like, that is happening at the moment. This is a super interesting time we live on, like such a long period of stability after World War II, and now it's all about instability and changes and not knowing what's going to happen next. There's no consistency and confidence in being able to have any kind of plan because everything changes so quickly under the US leadership. So, is Trump trying to make it all fall in a heap? And is he trying to do that for our own good? Maybe he's a good guy. Because I think you could make the argument that everything he's done is trying to make it fall in a heap. Maybe he's decided that the deep state, I don't know if that comes across as conspiracy theorist to anyone, but basically the people who are really making the US policy. Do you think the president really has any power in the US, or is he just basically doing what he's told? Like, I think that's the reason for a lot of people that Trump was voted in, because they thought, well, he's the biggest chance of anything actually changing because he's against the establishment. So, what was I trying to say? Yeah, basically, I'm saying that he might have, you could make the theory that he's a good guy and he just thought the US is ruining the world, the whole world going along with it is what is keeping this going. And if I can just isolate the rest of the world and they can, get rid of this cancer that's the US that's controlling everything, the world will be a better place. And maybe he thought ideally you would just get the US on the right track and get everyone to follow the US, to continue to follow the US. But it's going to be too hard to change the power structures in the US. The deep state is too hard to topple over, and we just have to make it so outrageous that everyone says, no, we can't continue doing this. But the sad thing is, Europe is still on board with all this crazy stuff that's going on in the Middle East, and it's not hard to. It's just so crazy, like how maybe I'm just watching the wrong YouTube channels. So, guys, send me something that'll change my mind. But it just blows my mind how the official story. I mean, like, you look at what the politicians are saying in the parliaments, and is that not evidence enough for, the intentions or whatever? Like what is the story? Like, can you at least tell a story that is consistent with itself? So, yeah, anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on with resistance, with people just saying this is too much, but people are always going to be a bit on the wrong track. Like, I don't know, no one has it figured out like me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people are just completely disinterested, or they're all. I think most people aren't as interested as I am, but they must be somewhat interested. Or yeah, maybe I just need to get a job and just to do my job and sit behind the desk and watch TV series and just be mind numbed into just going along with everything. Maybe, I don't know. I've thought the same as what I think now for a long time. So, but it does seem like it's just getting worse. But on the other hand, in the last, like, since the Palestinian thing started happening, I've heard a lot of amazing people, and a lot of them Americans and Jews, on YouTube spreading ideas. This is going to get way too long, and I've done this pretty quickly, just sitting here and talk. Tried to write some notes to talk about it, but I was still all over the place. But I just want to talk about one other thing. Like, at the moment, the X Alps, which is my favorite competition, is on at the moment, and it's an amazing race. There's been some controversy in, I think, the day before yesterday. There was some strong winds and some pilots getting, blown around like leaves in conditions which we think, why are we flying in these kind of conditions, and how come the competition makes them do something like that? So, do I want to talk about this? I don't know. Like, I hurt myself yesterday doing a dangerous activity. We tried to do it safely. It was something unexpected that happened. I think actually that was one of my points about X helps is the unexpected things. For me, it was being tired, and when you're tired, you don't react as well to situations. But if there is danger, get adrenaline and you don't feel tired in that moment. It's like when you're driving on a highway and it's a long road, then that's when you're going to fall asleep. And I think that's a lot of that is the most dangerous times. But anyway, I think that's irrelevant to what I was trying to say. But yeah, people are worrying so much, talking so much about what's happening with safety in X-Helps, and yeah, it's important. It's important that I don't hurt myself and that I stay alive as long as I can as well. But if you look at what else is going on in the world, like at what point does it become, you know, dramatic or significant enough that we actually even talk about it at all? Like, yeah, we're just it blows my mind sometimes what's going on in the world and how little people talk about it. Like all the places I've been, there was one time that Israel was brought up. Oh, maybe they've gone too far. This is after 18 months, and this is a very short conversation. People don't want to step on each other's toes. They don't want to, be this person who's always talking about this stuff, like me on my YouTube channel. They, yeah, I, I don't know. Crazy world. I think that's probably long enough video. You're joking. I just made the perfect pitch, I made the perfect cut, and then I realized the phone wasn't recording. So I wanted to add one more thing about this. So near the start of when I was paragliding, I found out about flying in Pakistan, and I thought that was the most amazing, incredible thing. It was about 10 years later when I finally got to go there, only for a few days. Crazy how long it took, how short the trip was, and how I only been there once. It is an incredible place, and part of it is the hospitality and the people you get to meet there and the stories behind it all. It's not just the scenery, like there's the adventure and the human side of it as well. And a guy who I've met a few times, but kind of met him through Facebook, and yeah, he is really has been trying to stick up for the Pakistanis and married one, and he lives in the US, and yeah, he's just a super nice guy. Like I spoke to him a few days ago, and he's in Egypt trying to join that march, which is pretty much being shut down by the people who don't want people to speak their mind or do what they believe in. So he was there, and he was just saying that it's probably good that we talk about it. So yeah, it's been kind of therapeutic for me to make this video, even if no one watches it. And another thing that he did years ago when I was in Antarctica, Lloydie was dying out of cancer, an Aussie legend, one of the original X-Helps guys, to bring it back to that theme of, relating everything to paragliding or whatever, what's going on at the world at the moment. Yeah, X-Helps is one of those things. And Lloydie hadn't really come to terms with the fact that he was actually going to die out of cancer, and he was sort of crying out for help. And Brad Sanders, the guy's name, he came all over the world to spend some time with Lloydie. And so he's trying to do something at the moment as well. No, I think that's it. Just go out there and do your thing and talk to people if you want to talk to people, and don't worry about things you can't really control, and just try to make your life a good story. Like that's what happened to me in the X-Helps. I thought, making this decision, it could be the end of me. It could be a really dumb decision tactically, but it's going to make a good story, and I'm just going to do it and try to live my life that way. And yeah, flying is a super dangerous thing. Like it can end up being the end of you, but otherwise you might just get old and you might just wish that you'd done some things. So that's it. I'm going. See ya.